Ooh.
Hey, everybody. Today is Thursday, October 28th. And we know what that means. It's another episode of the Prove It Live podcast, episode number 45. There are only a couple famous 45s. Pedro Martinez, the
Just stop
aforementioned.
there. That's the best one.
We have, the 45th president, I guess, but that's gets controversial. We don't want to be political. We don't want to get canceled. So today's show, it's called Mailbag. We're going to talk about some questions we got in mail, and we also have an interesting softball piece in the middle somewhere. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to my very handsome, dashing, and debonair co-host, Mike Ferry.
It's a little weird at this point. 45 episodes in and we're still doing that. It's a little weird.
It's not weird. I mean, I'm stunning.
I mean, yeah, he is.
Let's be honest.
But then I just found out that he dressed up and met his wife or kissed his wife, dressed as Boy George.
Yeah.
It was one of the best.
I might have been at that party now that I'm thinking about it.
You probably were. That was our good friend Rick McHugh's Halloween
party. Shout out
party.
to Rick McHugh.
While Mike was doing a lesson yesterday, I was actually talking to Sarah here in the office, and I said, I will pay money to see those pictures. We need to find pictures of that.
I think
somewhere.
we got to find those.
We definitely have them. I know there's some old actual photographs.
She explained to me, he had Daisy Dukes on with like spandex pants underneath. He had like a spiked choke collar on.
Yep. And actually one of my roommates, because Sarah was one of my roommates, and I lived also with 4 other young ladies, and I borrowed some fishnet stockings and just cut fingers on those. Are on my arms. It looked legit.
This is a G-rated program here.
Hey.
God.
Still handsome.
All right.
That's a handsome devil. Anyway,
you are.
So everybody, welcome to the Prove It Live podcast. I am Mike Ferry, your co-host, along with Dr. Kevin McGovern on the Prove It Live podcast. I'm from the Farm Baseball Performance Institute, and along with us is our producer at large, Ryan Gagne Fructis. Awesome episode today. So we do get questions from time to time.
With my hair, actually, I gotta get some.
Well, I mean, we got a lot last week.
You got to do.
We have this top 10 thing that we did.
I don't. Your hair is like
Can we
it's
get sponsored by Gagne Fructis if we keep mentioning it.
Now with that hair, you should have hair to sponsor. Like you have perfect hair like me.
I think we may get a respectful pass by Gagne Fructis.
That's like Mo from like from the Three Stooges. Remember, he used to have that long hair when he finally took it.
Just go up like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, we do get questions, and we try to answer them without asking the direct question, and we just try to maybe pick up that topic along the way. But today, since we had several questions, we're gonna get because they're good questions. And we, look, we only have so much time to get into a topic every week. And, as we often say, we could probably go on and on some of them. So, we'll make a little deeper dive into some of these things. Kevin's going to have, the questions. I have 2 of them in front of me. And then, yes, I want to talk about, some common flaws, Kevin, the very constant and consistent primary common flaws in softball. So what we're seeing so far.
Men's slow pitch or
women's? Negative. Yeah.
I just want to make sure we're at.
All right. So I
can
say right now,
a men's slow pitch?
No, that's what I was going to tell you is that we'll never be talking about men's slow pitch.
We probably should have a wiffle ball. We should do a wiffle ball episode.
Wiffle ball? I would do wiffle ball before slow pitch for sure.
Yeah. Okay, sure.
Because kids play wiffle ball.
Right. Well, not anymore. They really sit inside and look at their phone.
Our kids do. Yeah. Our guys do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
right. So Kevin, so first of all, before we get into into these main questions, we should cover Gagne. We should cover our top of the order first, right? This not a tuss. We can kind of blow through this really quickly.
Yeah. Since our last episode, the Houston Astros did defeat Mike and I, our beloved Boston Red Sox.
I was cheering for the Red Sox.
That's true. Yeah, that's right. Kevin
they adopted them for a week, and they let me down. They stabbed me in the back.
Everybody outside of Houston in the country is rooting for the Atlanta Braves right now.
That's right.
Braves took Game 1 of the World Series the other night. However, the Astros did bounce back last night. Potentially scandalously. Not sure.
Lots of whistles.
Do you know he leads everyone in home runs with like half the plate appearances, like Manny and Bernie Williams?
Active leader. Not all time. Yeah. He's the active postseason home run leader with 22.
Yeah.
And the one he got last night was off another fastball. I don't know if there's a whistle before that.
Lots of whistles.
Might have been a trash can. We don't know.
Lots of whistles.
But yeah.
But he did absolutely cream it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, if you know it's coming, right? It's not hard to do.
Well, it is, but not for those guys.
Still, even if I knew it was coming,
as a professional hitter, it's less hard to do when you know it's coming.
No, of course. You can sell out on it.
Can you use less hard? Is that a phrase?
Indeed, you can.
So. Okay. Yes. All right. Works for me.
Yeah. So the Braves went on to win the Astros went on to beat the Braves last night 7-2, I believe. So the series is tied 1-1, heading back to Atlanta for
Hotlanta.
3 games, right? Because it's 2-3-2 in Major League Baseball, which is always a weird playoff format to me. I prefer the 2-2-1-1-1, but that's probably another topic for another time.
It is. I actually like the 2-3-2. The 1-1-1. It's like there's too much time in between games.
But I also think it evens the home field advantage too, right? I mean that extra 3 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, because all the visiting team has to do is win one on the road to open up the series, and now that's what the Braves did. Now they have 3 at home, so now they have home field advantage.
Right, but then the home team just has to win one of the 3. All right, so it's pretty fair, I think. And the 1-1-1 thing, like they do in hockey, you have too much time to let so if you have a team that has the number 1 pitcher in baseball, for instance, right, you can get him to pitch 3 times on decent rest in a series, and that gives that team an advantage.
See, here's why my counter to that is during the regular season, you're traveling and then playing that same day anyway. Who cares if you're going to go 2-2-1-1-1? Don't add an additional travel day in there. Keep it the same as it was during the season. You still play on the day you travel. If you travel on a Sunday night, you play Monday. Who cares?
Because in the regular season, you never play a game, travel to play a game in another city, then travel again that day to play in another city. It's never quite that way. But regardless, you're right. It's another topic for another time.
Yeah.
But
before we get off this topic, I want to kind of blend. I know I didn't talk about it.
Sorry, it's irregardless is what I meant. Yeah.
Irregardless.
Yeah. I don't think irregardless is the word. Regardless is the word.
It is now.
It is now. Can we now anoint Dave Roberts as the Marv Levy of the new era? Boy, I love.
He can't because he won
Bowls.
One. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, but he won one in like a shortened kind of fakata thing.
I know.
Yeah.
No crowd. Well, I guess there was crowd for the world. I mean, dude, is he the worst man? Like, he's like.
It's too bad too, because I love Dave Roberts.
Being overmanaged, and we've talked about this ad nauseum. I feel like, and again, we could probably do a whole podcast just on.
Well, I mean, dude, sitting all the players in the first 2 games in Fenway again was just like that. You can't recover from that.
So, but here's the thing too in baseball, and this is well known now, that it's not just the manager making those decisions anymore.
It's the bean counters.
It's the front office. It's It's
the bean counters for sure.
Which is why I said I'm sure we could do a whole separate podcast series related to nerds in baseball. And I certainly think that there's a place for it, but maybe not as big of a place as it currently has.
No, there's. I mean, look, you got to use technology. You got to use information to the best of your ability. I mean, it's amazing what they have now in terms of just the like bundles of information that they have on every hitter that steps to the plate, how he fares against lefties, how he hits during the day versus the night. I mean, it's insane.
Yep.
And I always say, I would love to, love to know what Ted Williams, a guy like a Ted Williams, would have done, given today's technology.
He had worn fishnets and just like Boy George. Oh, my bad.
Obsessed much. I was handsome. So no, I bet you could also flip that around and say that pitchers obviously could have a huge advantage too, like they did not have back then. But anyway, so that's it for the top of the order. So now,
well, not quite. One more thing, because the Braves, even though they won game 1. They did lose their starting pitcher for the rest of the playoffs. Charlie Morton, who's their ace of the team, took a comebacker from Yuri Gurriel right off the shin, stayed in, pitched the rest of the inning, got a couple more outs, then started the next inning with a strikeout to Altuve before planting and realizing that something was wrong with his leg. It turns out he has a fracture of his fibula, right?
Fibula.
Fibula. Yes.
So he is out for the remainder of the World Series. So we'll see how that kind of factors into things as well.
So he's the pitching version of Jerome Dye, right? Didn't he do that? Didn't he foul a ball off his leg in the playoffs and break his fibula too? If I remember correctly.
Jermaine Dye.
Jermaine Dye.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jermaine Dye.
Yep.
Well, if we go back to the Bruins Stanley Cup run in 2011, was that when it was? I don't know. Gregory Campbell.
I remember that one.
Blocked a slap shot and stayed on the ice for another minute and a half with a broken leg.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I got to give Morton some credit here because I'm always quick to talk about how soft big league players are and and particularly pitchers. And what do you pitch? At least I think another full inning, right? Close to a full inning, if not 2/3 of an inning.
It happened. He got the line drive came off. Then he that was the first out of the inning. It went off his leg, went to Freddie Freeman, for the 1-3 put out. Then he got 2 more outs in that inning, getting a strikeout and then a line out. Then came up the next inning, struck out Altuve to start, and then on that curveball is when he planted his leg and realized that something.
Yeah, that was.
So that's a full inning. That's impressive. That's really bad. That's his drive leg, and he was still throwing like 96.
96, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I guess that's what I came in. So I didn't see the hit. I'm like, you tell me this guy just fractured his legs planting his leg.
Oh, it was interesting. Yeah. I thought it was his left leg at first because the pitch he did it on, it looked like he hyperextended his left knee and his toes came up in the air. And when he grabbed his right leg, I was going, I don't get it, but really, it's pretty amazing story. Nonetheless, pretty amazing story. Okay,
now we can move on.
Now we can move forward. That's a pet peeve of mine. Forward.
Yeah. All right, we got questions. Do we have answers?
You want answers?
You can't handle. Yeah, that. There we go. I knew that was coming.
I want the truth.
You can't handle it.
All right. So last week we did this like top 10 coaching cliches. So we did have a bunch of questions coming in. Mike, we had one for you. It wasn't really a cliche as much as it was a question.
Okay.
Right? Let me dig for it. Then we got a couple pitching ones, but we'll start with you. Put you on the hot seat.
Love it.
So a question came in from California. Believe it or not, we transmit all the way out there to West Coast. We're like West Coast. It was talking about the hitch. Good hitches, bad hitches. Do great hitters hitch? Do they not hitch?
Yeah.
Some people say it breaks inertia. What does Mike Frary say about the Dave Winfield hitch?
Dave Winfield, or are you talking about hitches in general? Because I think just in general here.
Tell people what is a for your what is a hitch besides something you hook a trailer to in the back of your car?
Great question. So first, I'll say that this was, it was probably the first mechanical hitting flaw that was like widely known, popular, right? Parents knew it, little league coaches, he's got a hitch, what a hitch was known to be. Okay, this is because there's a difference between what was known to be and what it actually is. Was known to be the movement of the hands doing this. Anything that was like a down up, right, would be a hitch. You drop your hands before you bring them up. It is a bit of a hitch. They'd call that a hitch. Okay. But the problem is that a hitch is not a bad thing. Okay. Now, if you're late with your hitch, if your hitch is not properly timed with the rest of your load phase, it could be an issue. Now, typically when you see people run into issues, it's the down, up, and then back down. When the hands drop a little bit, front shoulder comes up, and those hitters will typically get beat, especially anything up in the zone, anything fast and up, fast and or up. If it's fast and up, no chance. And that would be, but the problem is that most little league coaches or parents would say, oh, it's the hitch is the problem. Well, it's not the hitch the problem. It's the fact that he's coming back down before he starts his swing. Every great hitter, not ever, I'm using that term generally, okay, but in the aggregate, all of the best hitters had some sort of hitch with their hands, okay, and it just uses a time mechanism. Now, I can tell you that I will actually teach it with kids, and we get a lot of them who do like to drop their hands. And so we got a lot of front side hitters, right? And so without getting too into the weeds, all right, instead of starting with their hips, they start with their arms. And this bottom hand, okay, when it bars out, it doesn't bar out and keep the height. It bars out by just by the hand extending, and that brings the hands down. So you get this, and then you get a pull. Okay. So that's going to bring your hands down. So for kids that do that, hitters, both boys and girls, you see a ton of it with the softball, which we'll get into a little bit later. I'd like to add something where they're going down as they bring their knee back, and as they're planting their foot, their hands are coming up, so that as soon as the heel's down, the hands are actually up. And that's really the key, is that you want your hands at the highest and furthest back point when the heel lands, so that you can begin rotation with your hands at the top point. So now, if you saw that, what I was teaching is you're literally going down, then coming back up. I know Ryan's seen this, and I'm going to back up a little bit. So I'm going to do this here. Just
this is a live demo.
Like
here we go.
The knee, almost like you're bringing your hands to the knee and then back up here, is actually a motion that you'll see a lot of big league hitters, particularly power hitters, do. And that's something that I actually absolutely would teach. And that is a hitch, if you'd like to call it a hitch, but it's not bad. It's actually a good mechanism for timing. Barry Bonds, David Ortiz, right off the top of my head. You said Dave Winfield. There's tons of guys. Bryce Harper had one. You could go on and on. I mean, there's lots of big hitters that had that hitch.
So what I hear you saying, it's not, there's a good hitch and there's a bad hitch. There's a hitch that could help with timing and mechanics, and there's a bad hitch that could help with, or not help, be a hindrance.
Yeah, the hitch, I think it's the timing of the hitch, right? So It's not necessarily that the hitch is it's like you could have timing issues with your front foot. We see that a lot too, of hitters getting their front foot down, but not their heel down, right? So they get their toes down, but not their heel. And they're dropping their heel as they begin to swing. And of course, if you don't have both heels on the ground, you're not going to rotate properly from your midsection, right? So that's a problem. You start swinging with your hands, etc. So it's really that. And by the way, I think it's why you hear it talked about less. It used to be the big thing was a hitch. Always got a hitch. You hear it talked about less now, I believe, because people have finally figured out that, okay, it's not necessarily a bad thing by itself. But people could have issues with a little extra movement to their hands. Hope that answers it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes good. Makes sense. So the next question we had talked about, let's see here. There's a couple on pitching. One of them was a cliche, and it was, stride to home plate, or step as far as you can, or push off the rubber. None of those are good advice, and we can talk about that in a second. But the purpose of saying those is to try to shorten the distance between the mound and home plate. But actually those, believe it or not, lengthen the distance, because it's, you're striding and not allowing your body to turn, which will leave your arm to lag and lag behind you. But the one that got my fancy, which is an actual teach, and we'll have video of this later, and why would you do that? It's about dragging your back foot. All right. And there's a lot of people out there teaching you to drag your back foot. So I look at pitching from a very common place. Okay. So if I want everything to go forward with speed, why would I put a brake down? Why would I impede the rotation of my body, the movement of my arm, the flow of my energy by dragging my back toe? It doesn't make any sense. Now, when you challenge people who teach whomever, the first thing that they're going to say, okay, just so for people out there, look at all the major leaguers. So just for people out there who know, a Major League Baseball pitcher, which probably has a shelf life now of probably 3 years, maybe less, okay, and that both in effectiveness and health, okay, represents 0.00001% of everyone who's played baseball, okay, from a pitching standpoint. You cannot, anyone who's listening to this program who plays Little League, Babe Ruth, travel ball, high school, you cannot look at a major leaguer when we talk about pitching for that reason. There are so many people. I mean, we've talked in this program a multitude of times about how many kids play in the Little League World Series who never even play high school baseball for whatever reason. So just because a pro is doing it Okay. The injury rate in baseball is through the roof. We've talked about it ad nauseum. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's correct. No, if we go to the game of golf, no human being in the world would copy Jim Furyk's golf swing. No one. Okay. It works for him. All right. There's that other kid, Ryan, who came up there, who's got that like
I knew you were
weird golf swing. He was in the US Open, what like young kid, right?
I can't think of his name.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, he's got this like
weird, very weird.
Lunges, stands up, does this whole. You would never in a million years copy that swing, but it works for him. But when we look at rules of physics, if we're dragging something behind Matthew Wolf, the Wolf Pack. There you go. Very good. If we're dragging something and causing friction, not allowing our body to turn and rotate, to me, you're causing arm lag. Now, the same people who profess or want you to drag your toe also on social media, on their sites, have said there's no such thing as arm lag. It does not exist, even though we can show in video proof that it is arm lag. Okay, that the arm is behind the body, it's long, the hips have rotated, and the arm is hanging back there. Some people call that hip to shoulder separation, but there's good hip to shoulder separation and there's bad. So to answer that question, I would never, ever, ever in a million years teach anyone to drag their toe until someone could tell me scientifically how it's helping health first, velocity, accuracy, balance, and the pitching mechanics. And for the life of me, I can't see that.
So, Kevin, do you think that some people are teaching it in an effort, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Sure.
And in an effort to teach a kid, for instance, to keep moving forward, like for kids that just kind of get their toes stuck on the rubber and not, you know what I'm saying? And just in terms of keeping the force linear.
But why would you change? If you're saying that, then by dragging it, you're literally holding you back. I mean, we can all agree here that at the end of the day, we want a good finish with our right foot or our back leg either equal or just ahead of our plant leg. That is a proper. Now, does anyone finish like that? No, they're falling off the mound. They're like all over the place, which is, again, in my opinion, one of the reasons why there's so many injuries, because they're finishing all over the place from all different reasons. But we've all taught as a kid to finish in a fielding position, right? No one in the major leagues, or maybe 1 out of 50 pitchers, actually finish in a fielding position. The finish is horrifically maintained in Major League Baseball. So why would you want to copy that? But to answer your question is, we still want to walk. I mean, we still want to move your body in a walking motion, and that back leg comes with you. And why would I want to hold it back? I mean, in some cases, for me, that could be 75 pounds, right? Or big guys, Nolan Ryan could be 125 pounds. That's all force that should be going forward.
Right. I agree. And we were saying too, I know we're talking a little bit about the podcast about how you don't see those guys with the big up and over leg anymore. It just doesn't, you don't see it. And then again, we can say, does that parlay? And, we don't see that anymore. Right. But back then injuries were, and now it's through the roof. So is that one of the factors? It has to be. It's got not the only factor, but it's got to be one of the factors for sure. Well, I feel like every time that that something like this is brought up, that's a modern day teach, you compare older pitchers, and I say older, I'm saying even the 90s, 80s, 70s, and you hear, it's the velocity, guys throw harder now, and you can make that argument. First of all, you can't make that argument because they didn't have radar guns.
Right. You've just said the whole thing with the gun is like different from back then to now.
That's
right.
Completely
out of the hand compared to home plate. Right.
That's right. They used to have the radar gun aimed at the catcher. Right. Where Nolan Ryan with a torn UCL was throwing 98.5 miles an hour at the plate. Right. I mean, with a torn UCL and at age 49. Right. But you can't really compare, because you certainly didn't have accurate radar readings, let alone readings at all. And even when they did, it was when a guy like Nolan was on the mound, et cetera. It was expensive. It was cost prohibitive back then. So you can't really compare, even if you could compare it, I bet you would see that there were just as many hard throwers then as there is now. Now, were there more mid-80s guys getting outs back then? Yes, because there wasn't such an obsession with velocity. There was more an obsession with getting outs, get out of town, right? If you can get outs,
guys
you get a
pitch more
job.
innings, right? The guys,
Right.
starters pitch more innings, right?
That too.
Now
strike zone was also a foot off both sides of the plate.
Well, that's 90s, not in the 80s and 70s.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Right.
That was 90s. So, they pitch longer then. And nowadays you will not see a pitcher get a chance to pitch that third time through the lineup, right? Unless he's got something special on the line, or, they've got a very large margin of a lead, right? You just don't see it third time through. Stats say that's when pitchers start getting hit and out you go right now. But which is crazy to me, because oftentimes the guy that's in there that's pitching, I know we got to move on, but oftentimes the guy that's in there pitching, even though it's third time through, he's a better option than the guy you're bringing in with a fresh look, right? That seems to not be considered. But anyway, I know we have to move on.
Well, I mean, that's why they're starters, right? They're supposed to be better than the relievers. If not, the reliever would be a starter, right?
Right. But, I mean, the thing that the nerds don't take into consideration with this is, the pitchers that have that plan, that, the first couple times through, maybe they're not showcasing, especially the first time through, it's a steady dose of fastballs, mixing up the types of fastballs, location, eye level, that sort of thing. Second time through, they're coming around with more of that off speed, the changeups and breaking balls. Third time through, you don't know what's coming, because you've seen everything so far, So the reason why they're taking them out, and again, we could go on a diatribe about this, I'm sure, but I think that there's something to be said about the way the pitcher approaches things, and the game plan, for the pitcher catcher, and what they're trying to work with throughout the game.
Cool. All right. So what do we got now, Mike? We got some.
We got more questions.
We have another question. What else we got?
You have them. You have all the questions.
I think that was it. That was the ones I think that were important us for us to cover. Yeah. I mean, there was just a comment about, about the, knob to the ball, about, the straight line being up the middle. Or do you want it? Why don't you?
I'll cover that.
Just,
I'll cover that. That's really easy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The whole idea of knob to the ball, or even just the downward swing, right? So real quickly, the argument for the downward swing is your hands are here, the barrel's here, right up above your head. And, 85% of all strikes are thrown below the belt, right? So even the top of the strike zone's below your hands, but the pitch is really down that you're going to be swinging at. So the idea is, well, if you're not making a straight motion to the ball, you have wasted motion. You have wasted energy. It makes your swing longer. It's going to be harder to hit fastballs. And in theory, right, if you take that on its face, sure, that sounds like that makes sense. The issue, however, is that we're not swinging straight down to the baseball. We want to swing up and through the baseball. Again, a fastball comes at an approximately -8, -10 degree plane, and you want to match that with about an 8 to 10 degree swing. Now, you include breaking balls and such that could go up to 14 degrees, -14 degrees, matching it at 14 degrees, etc. Okay, but you want to play chicken with the ball, and I'll give the example again because I think it's good to visualize this. If you have two people at the opposite ends of a football field on the goal lines, and they're on the same hash mark, they start sprinting towards midfield, their chances of collision is what? It's 100%. It's 100%. It's just a matter of where they are, on what side of the 50, maybe it's on the 40, but their chance of collision are 100%. Now, if you take those two same people, opposite ends of the football field, one takes off and this other one starts going in a circle,
I'm already tired.
Your chances of contact are just slim. Okay.
Right.
And so that's what happens. That's what happens when you're swinging down to the ball. You have a circular swing. So the idea is that we want to get in front of the catcher's mitt as fast as possible. And if you do rotate and you have a good top hand, that's what you'll do. It's in front of the mitt as fast as possible. So you're in contact with that ball and then through the zone. And now your chances of contact are way bigger, way bigger. You're not trying to go down to one particular specific spot.
Good point. All right, so we're going to get into some softball here. So we can maybe start it off to break us in here on a case study with conquering, or at least attacking, one of the things. So we're going to talk about the basics of hitting and fielding, right, for softball. So I actually almost had a young gal this year who was about 2 throws away from having Tommy John surgery. I mean, that's how bad her elbow was when she came to see me. Okay. So again, how did you injure it? I'm doing these long toss drills. Okay. People have heard me talk ad nauseum about how long toss changes your mechanics, but even rewinding, you can't do something for distance, force, accuracy when the basics of your movement. I mean, you can't throw from 100 feet when you can't throw well from 10 feet, right? So I mean, this girl's throwing mechanics needed a lot of work, and that coach had her throwing from the outfield they were making throws from right field to home plate, and she injured her elbow. So Mike, you see it much more than I would, but I mean, certainly, and this girl was actually a pitcher, so she was an underhand slinger, but her overhand throwing had a bunch of flaws for all the stuff that we've talked about. Poor neck mobility, over facilitation of her upper traps, poor scapulohumeral motion, which caused her to shrug. And, then she couldn't really throw the ball with a good arm path. And again, it goes back to arm path. So what are you seeing in your program for the gals, with, I think, you're 10 through 16 or 10 through 18, what are you seeing? And maybe at different levels, what are you seeing?
So that's a good question. So, first of all, let me say that there's throwing flaws on both baseball and softball, of course, right? And a lot of it does stem from the teach. For whatever reason, with the softball girls, it's just far more prevalent. And I've yet to figure out exactly why, but I can tell you that it's the same, or it's all a similar flaw. Their elbows all get really low. And by the way, this happens when they hit as well, right? You get a lot of this.
And this girl had the same exact thing.
Yeah. And the elbow is just really low. And then the other thing to combat that maybe is like that. Right? To try to, so maybe someone said along the line, hey, your elbow's too low. And so, all of a sudden you're like this, and then they turn like this. And this is, I get from, actually my own daughter was struggling with this.
Compounds the problem when we do that, for sure.
Right. And then it's like, this big wing and the elbow low, and you can almost feel it just by watching it,
Absolutely.
And
it's so fixable. I mean,
it's so fixable. Well, let me touch on that real quick. So this year, we've grown, and I decided, it's worth it. It's too important to not. So we implemented the throwing, basically, Kevin, the throwing mechanics that we showed on the videos that we did here on the podcast. Great. And before every session, whether we're hitting, fielding, doesn't matter, they're working on those progressions. And some of the girls are making fast progress in fixing it. And not only are they throwing more healthily without pain, but they're throwing harder.
That's great. Yeah. And but we had, girls and boys are different. They're built differently. They mature differently, especially their bodies, and having two daughters myself, if you have a daughter who is tall, like my two, studies have shown that girls certainly don't like to stick out in the crowd, especially if they're tall, right? And we're in front of a computer all day, the phone, we're getting that, that kyphotic, that slouch posture, which is a killer for overhand throwing athletes, and girls maybe, boys are obviously susceptible to it too, but you see it a lot, and girls, have things in the front that men don't, which also contribute to postural issues and shoulder blade stuff. So, the training should be different when we talk about girls to boys, of really getting in to doing more core training and refining basic human movements before we go out and do stuff, and the training program for these girls should not be just thrown together. Oh, let's do this, and this. It really should be about refining and perfecting their basic movements and then building from there.
Yeah, I think that's smart. And look, you touched on it in the beginning, but I think, I don't want to understate it. So confidence is just
huge.
And I can tell you that the importance of confidence in general and a diamond sport player. Now, any athlete, it's really important, but our listener here today, William Carey, could attest to this, because most people wouldn't believe it. I was actually a basketball player as well. And, with basketball, if you miss a shot, even if it's a pretty big shot and your team needs it, you don't have much time to dwell on that. You got to get back on defense fast.
Yep.
Okay. And then next thing you know, you have the ball again in less than a minute, and you got a chance to make up that shot you missed or hit the next one. Right. With Diamond Sports, if you strike out with the bases loaded in the third inning, you got to sit out in the outfield or in the field and dwell on that. I mean, it's so easy to say, oh, yes, just forget it. Right.
That's a fantastic point. Right. Yeah. And, that's why, baseball and softball are so mentally challenging, both just being able to conceptualize the game, but just being able to, don't forget, you're constantly failing, right?
Constantly.
If you fail three times out of 10, you're in the Hall of Fame, right? You succeed 3 times out of 10. Like, you're constantly failing, constantly. It's a game of failure.
And that's the obvious one. But look, you could throw a perfect game and you still had several failures that game.
Absolutely.
You threw balls when you wanted to throw strikes. You didn't get break out of a pitch that you wanted, maybe hung up there a little bit, right? There's so many, there's so many failures, so many. And the same thing, hitting, you could go 5 for 5 that day. But I'm sure, you probably swung and missed at a couple of balls. Maybe you fouled some off. Maybe one of your 5 hits was you hit it off the end of the bat. You didn't want to do that. So the point is that it's just loaded with failures, and you have to play this game with supreme confidence. I always use the example, like, I'm a huge shark fan, which I think I've already told everybody. And one of the things with sharks, with blood in the water, is only takes a little tiny drop, and sharks can sense that from like nautical miles away. And doubt and fear, that does the same thing to an athlete's mind. It just takes the tiniest bit of doubt, the tiniest memory of that last failure, and you're cooked. You're going to get beat. So how do we combat that? Basically, so Kevin, we use a sports psychologist that works with our kids, and one of them we're introducing this year, was a referral by you, and it's really just about understanding that failing's a part of the game. You take your kids to the beginning and say, everybody's going to fail, including me. And I did it 3 times over the weekend. I sent someone home, and 2 of them were balls I thought were dropping, and I'm going, go, go, go.
Oh, boy.
And the girl is smart enough to go, he's dumbass is wrong. I'm staying. And sure enough, the ball was caught. Right. Yeah. And so there's my failures. Right. So everyone's going to fail. So now that we know that, let's go out and play confidently and not be surprised by a failure, because we know it's going to happen.
Right. Good. Now, so let's, turning to the hitting end, what are you seeing as developmental issues that, maybe, compare and contrast, may have the same as boys, but maybe a little bit different, for whatever reason? What are you seeing on that end?
I'm seeing no bat speed. And I'm seeing, there's lots of tentative swinging with softball. And I think it comes back to the confidence thing, right? So
is that tentative that they don't know the pitch, or just tentative? Like what do you think?
It's like they're not entirely convinced they're going to smoke the ball. And that's the mentality you have to have, is I'm going to absolutely annihilate this softball, this baseball. Sometimes it's the opposite with boys. You get them swinging out of their shoes. It's 0-2. And there's a ball in the dirt, and they're swinging 4 feet on top of it, and they're spinning themselves around. And, with some of the softball players, it's a bit the opposite, like when they're in 2-0 counts, 3-1 counts, not really taking a good hard swings of the ball. Now, some of this is mechanical, but swinging hard isn't. Swinging hard, whether you have a good swing or not, you can swing hard. Whether it's swinging hard with your legs, like you're supposed to, your legs and your core, or with your arms, you should still be swinging hard, especially in those counts. Now, again, it's the confidence. I think it's the anxiety that I don't want to miss the ball. I don't know why, Kevin, but let's just talk about this real quickly. For some reason, swinging and missing is like the biggest fear in diamond sports. It really is, because the boys are like this. They're so afraid to strike out. And the point is, swinging and missing isn't like even in the top 5 worst things you can do on a field.
Right.
In fact,
it's the mental errors, right? The physical errors.
It's like, but a wild pitch with second and third is worse, because it lets up runs. If you're a third baseman and you let a ball by you in a game, that means a run, right? Because there's a reason there's a play at that bag. So there's a lot more things you could do worse on a field. And the thing that kills me is 2/3 of the time a swing and miss just means you're going to see another pitch. Right. 2/3 of the time. And on that other third, when it is strike 3, how is it different than flying out deep? How is it different than, lining out? It's not. And so, but For whatever reason, it's this big anxiety. And I think that that's where it comes into play with the girls. The second thing is really teaching them to really use their legs in their quarter swing, which is what we're working on with our softball players, and getting them to understand like that, you want the big muscles to swing the bat. And when you do that, you're going to just create bat whip almost without trying anyway.
Awesome.
That's a big one.
The funny thing is too, like you talk about, kids nowadays being almost afraid of striking out, where if you watch any Major League Baseball game, it's very apparent that none of those players are worried about striking out because it's happening at
especially the Joey Gallo school of hitting.
Joey Gallo's dead.
Yeah.
Oh, anyway. Sorry, I meant Joey Gallo.
So look at, as a rule, right, I want, and this is just my opinion, I'd rather have my players swing at balls rather than watch strikes any day. It just tells me about their mentality. They're not afraid to strike out. They're up there.
I like it.
I mean, look, you're on offense when you're in the batter's box. Right. And you have too many hitters afraid of the pitcher. It's like it should be the other way around. It absolutely should be the other way. If you strike out, you strike out. You're gonna get another whack at it.
All right. Good.
That's all I have to say about that.
So is it time for I jumped the gun. I don't want to do it this week. Is it that time?
I think it is. Gagne Fructis. Oh, all right.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute there.
Stop. Why would you do that?
Why would you do that? All right, what do we got?
We've got an interesting one today. We've got a couple things that we're going to show. Let me share my screen here.
Why would you do that?
Well, we should have why would you ever look in that position?
Hey.
Make it a little bigger here.
Wow, dude, look, he's even leaning backwards. I didn't see that before.
Yeah. So again, this is the same company that's teaching drag the foot, and here, just the physics. Okay, so the body works like a merry-go-round. All right, if anyone's ever been on a merry-go-round, we've got a stable post, and we rotate around that. Right, that's how we generate rotational force. We got to have something stable. We turn around it. So here's a picture of a pitcher who has front foot planted, dragging back foot. Okay.
His front foot's also on the third base side while his drive foot's on the first base.
His arm is arguably probably at 59 feet. It's up, and he still has to rotate his hips and throw to home plate from this position. Now, you've heard me say on the show that when we talk about a athletic movement, that if we had a high-speed camera, every frame, someone should be in an athletic position. My definition of an athletic position is that a snap of a fingers, you can make another athletic move. From this position here, this kid,
I thought it was that at every frame you want to look like you're going to fall backwards.
Oh, no, that's this one. Yeah, that's this one.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So that's okay. So here, this is an accident waiting to happen here. These are not good mechanics. Anyone could look at this picture here, and if the next move is to deliver what that baseball in his hand with force to home plate, that's just not happening without sacrificing parts of the body. It just is a horrible position. And I'm sorry, we can go back and forth, and you can't debate me and tell me that is a good athletic position. I'm sorry.
National Pitching Association.
Yep. And here we are he's talking about opposing elbows. Again, when we abduct the elbows away from the body, we are causing a mechanical impingement. You are throwing from a pronated position, an internally rotated shoulder. The person teaching this has absolutely zero, and I mean zero, idea about human functional anatomy, or they would never in a million years teach this position. This position is responsible for every single Tommy John surgery. Every single Tommy John person starts with palm down, arm lag, and this M or W or whatever they're calling it, the Steven Strasberg position. I mean, it's funny that the kid in this video is literally wearing a brace on his elbow. Enough said. And I can't even look at this. It's so painful. And he's releasing the ball. The ball's like upwards. And this probably has thousands of views. This probably says that this is a guru. Well, I can tell you it's not. and it's shameful.
No, I mean, it's clear too. I mean, I don't think you have to be a real expert even just to see posturally how he was in that position where he literally was falling back. I mean,
right.
his
and as he releases the pitch, he shakes his arm. Because why? Because his elbow hurts.
Yeah, well, exactly. And this is the sort of the travesty of it all, right? As you know, we've got lots of kids, young players looking to right there. He's literally like he's going to fall back towards the first baseline.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This is
so no way his glutes are engaged right now. It's a near impossibility, right?
I can tell you right now, his back, his facet joints of his back is completely locked backwards. Yeah. There's no glute activity going on. There's tons of arm lag. His back leg is anchored there. It's just I can't even really look at this. Shut this off.
I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go back and watch this later because I'd love to know what the importance of. Let's say, for the sake of argument, right, that his quote unquote elbow angles were perfect here. Mm-hmm. So what? Everything else is such a mess. And again, that's like there should be a hierarchy of.
Don't forget hyperextending the front leg too. Don't forget that one as we go by. There it goes. Boom.
Also, look where the ball is.
There's no way that ball's a strike.
The catcher stands up to catch this ball at a minimum.
Right. You're throwing up to go down.
There's got to be a hierarchy of teaches, right? And they have to go in levels of importance, right? And so health being first, of course. So if you're doing something that's unhealthy, but that sixth step, the elbow angles are right, you're not doing it correctly. You got to go back and make sure that kid is posturally sound so that he's not going to hurt himself. And at minimum and at maximum, he's going to generate the most force by keeping the big muscles engaged. But yeah, I mean, it's unfortunately, and that's a very well-known organization. The guy that owns that organization has worked with lots of well-known people.
Yeah. And that's what you get, and that's what you're going to hear when they're challenged. You're going to hear that.
Let me read the little blurb about it now, just to see what your thoughts are on this. It says the Monday Mechanics Minute: opposite and equal (parentheses elbow angles). After doing literally hundreds of 3D motion captures, what was noticed about elite throwers is their elbow angles match at foot strike. We call this being equal and opposite at foot strike.
Oh my God.
It's like walking on a tightrope. You want your arms balanced. This prevents you from over-rotating and keeps your momentum going towards the target. If your elbow angles don't match, adjust your glove side to mirror your throwing side at foot strike. Never, that's all caps right there, never adjust your throwing arm to match your glove side.
Right.
Well, what was written there, so did it say, what about the leaning back and almost falling backwards? What did it say about that? Nothing. Okay. These people, nothing, zero.
And by the way, all that opposite and equal is really supposed to mean is basically from shoulder to elbow, your front arm and your back arm and your throwing arm should match, and that's only to keep yourself level so that you can throw down. That's all that is.
Keep the ball in your glove. That I can't even watch that.
And the guy that shared this, we don't have to throw out names if we don't want to. It's up to you guys. But this is just a fun Facebook group that I joined just to get some.
Yeah, I've challenged this guy, and he just says all major leaguers do it. All major leaguers do it.
Yeah. So the group is called Professional Baseball Drills and Advice. So all you listeners out there, feel free to go to join this.
And I've asked their injury rate.
He's a quote unquote group expert. Okay.
Yeah.
And it says never, again, all caps, never allow anyone to mess with how your throwing arm or your kid's throwing arm naturally works.
Naturally, right? Naturally, but there is no natural. Yeah,
because naturally I look like this, a scarecrow on Halloween. That's a natural movement for me. Yeah, right. Jackass.
That's a great tidbit right there. Right, that's a good little morsel. Yeah, your kid naturally throws. You know what? You're probably onto something, whatever the guy's name is, but that's not at all what he really means, and that's frustrating. That's really frustrating.
No kid, child, man, woman, girl picks up a ball and gets into an M position ever.
No,
never.
And everything that this quote unquote expert has shared, keeps saying, it bears repeating, never allow someone to tamper with how your kid's throwing arm naturally works. And he put something here. He put, every kid whose throwing arm is not tampered with has a better chance of playing on TV one day.
That's such bullshit.
Well, hold on. Sorry. Yeah. Well, let him back that up.
We've
Yeah,
got,
back
we've
it
got a
up.
four-letter word right there.
Yeah,
We just
I'm
got
sorry.
tossed off of YouTube.
It's such crap. It's such crap. Like, and people
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I mean, that's such crap.
And
Well,
then
here's the
some of
thing.
these
He's
other-
like, he does. Why doesn't he back it up? Like, you can't just throw
Can't.
something out there like that as
Can't
a
back it up.
fact.
None of
and,
these guys
you know,
can back it up. None
without
of them.
any-
the couple other bullets to his point there are, if all arm paths on the planet are left alone, that's a couple extra Nolan Ryans you'll see on TV one day.
Yeah, sure.
And then
Yeah, right. So
there is
leave
no
it
such-
alone.
there's
So
no
leave
such
it alone.
thing- There's no such thing as arm lag. What appears to be arm lag is really a premature front side.
Right.
Leave their throwing arm alone.
So this, just so I can jump in here, this is the tweet, Kev, that
Yeah.
you started getting in. Yeah. So we
Yeah,
actually
so I get
kind of
into
covered
it,
this
and
before.
Of course, yeah, and of course you can. What's your injury rate? What's this?
Right.
As the guy accelerates the ball uphill against gravity.
Lean
Morons.
backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, leaning
All right.
backwards.
All right. It just got hot in here. All right.
Sorry, but it just pisses me off when
Well,
things are
we'd love
preventable.
to have this guy come on the show, as it's called, prove it live. We want prove it. Prove to
Sure.
us what you're saying.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Do me a
Yeah.
favor. Have a kid, and I feel bad for the kid. Have a kid throwing that doesn't have a brace on his elbow. How
Well,
about we do that?
And I just think, like, in all fairness, I mean, I think this is the reality. Like, you to just throw something out there that, and to beat a dead horse with it. I mean, they say several times, as Ryan just read, never, in all caps, touch the arm path. And if we left every arm path alone, right, that would have more Nolan Ryans out there. Like, where do you have even the tiniest bit of research that shows that? Nope. Now, first of all, it'd be a near impossibility. I mean, just the sheer numbers, but it's just not okay to just throw things out there like that. Because
when he comes on, just explain to me why you throw from a pronated, internally rotated position to eventually externally rotated supinate. You explain that to me, and I'll shut up.
I'd like to know more about his claims of non-injury if you just leave an arm alone.
Well,
right?
I'd like to know, has he taken a science class? Does he know what the elbow is? Has he been no, zero, no, and no.
The problem is, like I said, his very first statement, well, not his first, but the first one that Ryan read off, there may be some credibility to that. If that existed, but it doesn't exist. Kids are not left alone. Kids are shown, if they're in the sport of baseball, they're shown a very specific way to throw from when they're, what's that old saying? Knee high on a grasshopper.
Knee high on a grasshopper. Yeah.
So there is no such thing. It's a unicorn.
You would be hard pressed to see and this is in a separate video, be hard pressed to see a better example of player signatures, in parentheses, what must be left alone, versus all caps, biomechanics, what must be taught, than this video. And the video is preposterous.
Not sure that makes sense. Okay.
Exactly.
Of course, it doesn't make sense. They're using big words.
Yep.
All right, so real quick before, what do we got going on? Mike? What do you got? What's going on this weekend in Mike Ferguson? We got Halloween. That's right. Big comeuppance this weekend.
We have Halloween.
Halloween. Except Michael Myers.
Ella and her friend are going to be Raphael Devers and Xander Bogaerts, respectively.
Nice.
Is that Allie?
That's Allie is Xander. Yeah, I think she's obsessed with Xander.
And then your son's going to be who?
Mike Myers.
Mike Myers.
There's another one obsessed with something. Yes, he's obsessed with Mike Myers. So he's going to be Mike Myers.
Love it.
And I'm going to be the grumpy old dad, just sprinting his kids around the neighborhood, getting some candy. And then I will steal half of it.
How's your neighborhood for trick or treating?
It's the neighborhood. You should come.
It looks like a good one because here's the thing.
All of Sudbury. Let me finish. All of Sudbury comes here, and then people from other towns come here too.
And here's why: because it's densely populated. The houses are close together. It's a grid. The driveways aren't terribly long, right? So you can hit a larger number of houses in a shorter amount of time. Like
that's correct.
People think going to the bigger neighborhood, to the bigger houses, you're going to get better stuff. Yeah, but then your commute is longer because you're
right.
Time walking up these driveways in this path. You need the houses that are closer to the street and that are bunched together.
What time's the party at the Ferry House? What time's the party?
But this is the oldest neighborhood in Sudbury, right? So this was the original Sudbury, and so yeah, I mean, if you go to the newer part, you're gonna be trekking between houses. Yeah. First of all, no party. As soon as it gets dark, come on over. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's the neighborhood. There's like just hundreds of kids out there, hundreds.
Yeah.
Is it
take my kid there?
It looks like
the clock back.
When we were in Halloween.
It's the following week. It's the week after Halloween, I believe.
Dude, I mean, it's gonna get dark at like 2:00.
Yeah, I know.
The good news is, since it's so late now, it's only for like 2 months because December 21st, right? That's the winter solstice. It
starts to change. Yeah.
And we begin our training program on Monday. So Monday. We kick it off. And our off season begins. Our 2021-22 season begins.
Fall ball wraps up for my team on Saturday. We our 14U team is in the semifinals. We play at 8 a.m. Saturday morning. If we win, we go on to the championship at 10:45.
You're not playing anywhere Saturday morning.
No,
it's a turf field, so
yeah.
I know the forecast isn't looking.
They're saying like 85% rain, right?
Yeah, it is a turf field, so who knows what they'll let us get in. But,
ditto for the 18 our 18U guys. They're the number 1 seed. They've gone undefeated through the fall, and in fact, I think the number 2 seed bowed out for
number 2.
So yeah, we same thing. Should have 2 games, but anyway, we'll see what happens. Yes.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Yep, Thursday.
All right.
Thursday.
Bye, everybody.
All right, see you, lads.